All right, I was going to sit down and make a video trying to explain some very simple things that people aren't understanding about the Cleveland Browns and draft picks and stuff like that. I'll probably try to link to this article as well. If not, there's a really good article out that shows that picking drafts in the NFL is not a science. The people who pick these picks, over time, they do no better than the average person. The amount of data out there is showing this. So people who are trading up to go get these players in the draft, believing that they have this secret sauce that they know and they're able to tell whether or not this player is great and he's going to be good, they don't. They do not know. The statistical data is there. You can also go back and look at Bill Belichick's drafts, since everybody thinks he's a god. Look at the quarterbacks he's drafted in the past. They're not good. Most all of them are not very good. The only one that he drafted that was good was Tom Brady in the 6th round, who he had as a backup quarterback until his starting quarterback got hurt, and that's why Tom Brady got to play. Another example of this is Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner couldn't even get in the NFL. He was playing in Canada, over in Europe, everywhere else. He finally got an opportunity, and he's in the Hall of Fame. They don't know. They can't even evaluate the talent at that level, the highest level, Hall of Famers, let alone evaluating the talent at a level of he's a serviceable quarterback in the NFL. So that's my premise. I think that's 100% fact. So once I have that, now I know, okay, they don't know what they're doing. So they don't have any higher probability of getting this quarterback than I do. So let's say that I just go through and I list Mel Kiper's top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL draft, and I sit here and I throw darts at them. And whichever one it lands on, blindfolded, it lands on the dart. I probably will have as good of track record as anybody in the NFL. So knowing that information, what's the best way for me to increase my likelihood of getting that player? Is to throw 2 darts. That's the point of what the Browns are doing. They're getting an extra dart to throw. I'm not saying that they're the best in the world at evaluating talent. What I'm saying is their strategy is right. Also, I want to touch on this. People who sit here and say, we could have drafted this player and we didn't. We could have drafted that player and we didn't. It's very easy to sit after a draft and say, I get to pick any player in the draft who is drafted after we picked. And also, I get an additional 8 months to evaluate the player's performance in the NFL. I'll pick players against anybody where I get that as my picking. I get to wait 8 months to see how good they are, and I get to pick any player who wasn't drafted after you. It's completely unrealistic to use that vantage point to evaluate somebody and how they're doing in the draft. Another thing I wanted to say is just because something didn't end up being proper doesn't mean that the decision at the time wasn't correct. An example of that is if you come up to me and say, hey, listen, I want to flip this quarter and I'll bet you 3-1 if you get it right. Well, I'm obviously going to take that bet because I know it's a really good bet. Now, if I flip that quarter and I pick heads and it comes up tails, that doesn't mean that me placing that bet was dumb. The bet was smart. Stop looking at the outcomes of events to determine whether or not the decision was proper. That's not how you make decisions. Another thing I want to touch on was the fact of when you're trading down in the draft, the whole point of that is you're trading to build a future. You're trading the present pick to build for the future. You have to allow the person to get to the future. He's only been there 2 years, year and a half, Sashi. So let them get to that future. You're not even allowing it. The fan base is going crazy. The local media is going crazy. And now they were getting ready to make an absolutely fucking moronic decision to give away 2 draft picks for A.J. McCarron. Because, and here's the reason why, this is the flaw in the NFL and almost all businesses in general. The flaw is immediate gratification. So Hugh Jackson wants to save his job. So he's willing to make decisions that are dumb because he wants to continue to be paid millions of dollars. That's the flaw that can be exploited in the NFL. You can trade current draft picks for a lot more in the future because people want to have their job. They want to make their millions of dollars. So they're willing to mortgage the future for the present to keep their money coming in. Whenever you sacrifice the present for the future, the person or company or team or whomever that does that, they will win in the long run. You have to allow them to get to that long run. An example of this is Amazon. I remember reading about Amazon years and years ago about how dumb Jeff Bezos was. Never invest in Amazon. They don't ever make a profit because all he does is reinvest all of his money. You're never going to get your money back. Blah, blah, blah. Now, 10 years later, I'm reading articles about the government needs to break up Amazon. Amazon's taking over every industry. Because it was a person who delayed immediate gratification for the future. And now that future is here, and all the idiots that can't see past the tip of their nose are sitting there and they're like, holy shit, now we got to break them up because we can't compete with them anymore. Another key thing to keep in mind is, as you're doing something like this, the amount of time it takes you to get this started is also the amount of time that you have on the back end, if not more. So it takes 2 to 3 years to get this process going, to gain the capital and everything else needed. But that capital then is also on the back end for that amount of time. So it doesn't just shut off the moment that you make the picks, because you have all of this capital that you're now able to work with. So just to recap, the flaw is everyone is getting... It's similar to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick knows he can make this. Bill Belichick was an idiot when he coached in Cleveland, by the way. Joe Torre was an idiot before he went to New York. Bill Belichick was not a great coach until he got the greatest quarterback in the NFL that he drafted in the 6th round, and was a backup until his starting quarterback got hurt. Read the book Fooled by Randomness, and you can learn some things about how these occurrences, people think that it makes people a genius when someone's going to win. Well, I'm interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are. I actually have more to say, but I'm going to cut it off because I don't want it to get too long. I'm interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are. You can either respond to this. I'm going to post it on YouTube and then post a link on Twitter. All right.